the first topic, so once you do your brief introduction, is what are you or your clients doing about supporting mental well-being and preventing employee burnout? So it's kind of a combo question. I'll put that in the chat. And then Warren, since you were first here, that means you get to go first. So Warren, go ahead and kick us off. You're still on mute there, Warren.
Got it. So what are my clients doing about supporting mental well-being and preventing employee burnout? Talking with them, working with them. You'll hear a little bit later, but I've spent my history in government and non-government and private sector consulting and coaching work, helping those owners in businesses to connect better and understand how to manage and motivate their employees. So the best opportunity really for that is to work with them and listen to them. And that prevents burnout and has over the years. And I should say that my intro briefly is what I do is I'm the owner of the Executive Suite. I'm based in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and I work with business owners to develop growth and exit strategies and then recruit executives to implement those strategies. So I focus primarily on CEO recruitment as well as other C-level recruitments. I'm industry agnostic and perform searches across the United States and occasionally across the pond.
Nice. Thanks, Warren. Appreciate it. Aaron.
So did you call me first? I missed that.
Aaron May, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Aaron. Apologize.
No problem at all. Nice to see you guys all again. And for some of you, I'm meeting for the first time. Good to meet you. My name's Aaron May. I'm the owner of Better Fit Benefits. As a company, we do employee benefits structuring and restructuring packages for companies nationwide. We have offices across the country. We have different verticals that we service as well, but we focus primarily on employee benefits in terms of what I do for a living. My clients obviously are in different industries, right? I have some clients in the cannabis space, sober living, restaurants, professional services. And so the answer to that question, it really just depends on which industry we're talking about, right? But in general, my clients, the wellness, I mean, we implement packages that incorporate things like, on-site health screening, getting flu shots on site. But, I feel like I'm probably not the best person to start off with that answer to that question, just because it really just depends, and it's long-winded depending on the industry.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. David, go ahead. David, HRIS.
Yes. I'm David Bourne with HRIS, based out of California, but we're in 32 states, and that offering all kinds of employee benefits. This is all we do. We specialize in that. I've been in the industry for over 30 years. In regards to this topic, mental health is very important right now. Coming out of COVID, we're seeing a lot of people trying to get access to that through their health plans. And a lot of times it's cumbersome. They have to go to an office. Their wellness or telemedicine through the carriers is limited for mental health. We offer a very affordable package to our employers, it's a full telehealth benefit. It's $9 per employee for the entire family, and that it has unlimited free visits for general medicine, second opinions, mental health, neck and back care, dermatology, nutrition, all free. And what we try to do is encourage, especially that mental health. They can get on a phone call wherever they're at, schedule a call, and reoccurring appointments with a mental health physician on an ongoing basis, and that where they could reach out to them at no cost, them and their family, individually or together as a family to discuss mental health for them. Marital just stress, anything like that. It's $9, very affordable, and it's really taken off. A lot of people have taken advantage of it because of that weight and the cost of it going through their health plans.
Smart. Awesome. John Rubner, welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Rubiner. I'm a employment lawyer, primarily defense, in Los Angeles at Freeman Mathis and Gary, but we have offices kind of throughout the United States. And also let me apologize. I put it in the chat, but I have to leave early. I had a conflict, but I thought I'd come for what I could. I guess I don't really know what my clients are doing about health. I kind of deal, employee health and well-being. I kind of see them after they've decided to terminate somebody is usually when I'm dealing with them. So that particular person is never feeling all that well. In my firm, I think what we've tried to do coming out of COVID is do more and more one-on-one things, have events, and just places for people to kind of re-engage with each other. I think because of COVID, we lost a lot of that interpersonal dynamic just that happened in everyday work of going to lunch with people and talking literally around the water cooler. And that's just not happening as much anymore. So we're kind of forcing it to happen by setting up get-togethers and things like that.
Thanks, John. Yeah, it's difficult. I think a lot of people are charged up. I mean, I just know going to our mixer last night in New York, it's just great to talk to people face to face and shake hands and have a conversation that's not just work related, because we tend to, when there is no water cooler, we tend to just go straight into business most of the time. So yeah, it's great to be able to connect. So now, John, you probably hear sometimes from your client that the employee says, it wasn't a healthy work environment. So I'm imagining you got to deal with that on the other end, right?
Yeah, I mean, lately it's weird. In the last, I've been taking depositions the last couple of weeks from people, and the multiple companies, but they all seem to have this. The employees always say it's toxic, but even I can tell a lot of times it kind of has a junior high school aspect of a lot of bickering and backbiting and complaining about stuff that's not, quite frankly, that important, but becomes very important to a given person. And I've been talking to some of the supervisors about how they deal with that. And I don't know if that's I've just seen it a lot in the last few weeks. I don't know if that's kind of a nationwide epidemic of that, but the managers in very different areas, very different types of industry have told me there's just been more of almost this junior high school bickering going on with their employees.
Wow. Well, if you don't have anything to complain about, find something to complain about.
Yeah.
Basically.
Or to criticize others. That's really the issue. Not so much complaining, but criticizing.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, John. I appreciate that, because that's my inclination, is I think it is harder these days in the work environment, because we're remote, we're in person. It's all different now. So Mark, what are your thoughts? Introduce yourself, and then what are your thoughts around it, Mark Rossi?
Sure. I'm part of the Chicago group 2, just joined recently. And as you can tell by my screen, I'm with a talent coaching firm. So executive coaching, leadership coaching, transition, placement coaching. And what we're doing about that topic, it's funny, I had an appointment this morning with a digital mental health organization called Kooth. It's big in the UK, but more of a startup in the US, but growing that quickly. But what we're doing as far as in our coaching materials and leadership materials, and it just actually came out today, we're introducing more like resilience coaching in our materials and in our programs, because a lot of mental health issues come from, that broad topic of resilience and how people can kind of to be resilient, to cope with the workplace and the pressures of life and everything going on and whatever's upsetting you, whether it's your bickering in your workplace or climate change or your boss or whatever it is. And just today we produced like a 40-page white paper all about research based on resilience in the workforce and how to coach employees and managers to better be able to handle the stress of the workplace. So I'd like to think we're making our contribution that way.
And obviously, Mark, that came to be because there was enough interest in this area that you guys
Yeah.
needed the data.
And enough requests on what about, because we have certain IP on different topics, executive presence, communication, storytelling, whatever. And it's like, well, what about like resilience? A lot of our employees are saying that they need kind of help in that area. And that mental health is a huge area. I mean, it borders on it. It's not the same as mental health, but certainly it touches it. So
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. And good luck with that. You'll have to let us know how it goes.
all right.
As
All
you
right. I'm
go
trying to be
along.
resilient myself. So
Yeah, exactly. When somebody says no, you're going to go right back in.
no means maybe.
Yeah, no means not yet.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Uh,
But that's persistence more than resilience, right?
absolutely. Love it. Michael Espinosa, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Michael Espinosa. I'm a business performance advisor with Insperity. And if you don't know who Insperity is, we're one of the nation's largest providers of outsourced HR services. We just opened our 100th office, so we operate in all states. And we do all these people operations. And when I hear about mental health, wellness programs, I think a few of us have touched on, different aspects of it. And I think it's a couple different things. One is giving companies access to programs that support wellness. Like, I think the benefits person mentioned having access to wellness programs. This is what we provide to our clients as well. So they can, call somebody on a variety of topics. Maybe they're dealing with, issues at home that's affecting their work performance, or they just need access to some local programs to help with that. So one is getting access to the programs, but I think what's even more important to that, and I think John had mentioned this, is having a culture that supports conversations. So, employees being able to feel comfortable speaking to their supervisor that they've got something going on, and maybe they're not even aware that the company has access to different programs that can support them. So I think that's like one of the most important aspects, is having this culture in companies to support open conversations. And then something Mark had just mentioned, kind of coupling that, is giving these supervisors, upskilling them. How do we train these supervisors to be able to foster these conversations? And if somebody comes to them, what does that conversation look like? How can we support our employees when they're having these conversations with us, to make sure that, the conversations are done in a compliant way, but also that these supervisors are aware of what programs are available as well, so they can direct their employees to the right place. So I think it's a couple different things, right? It's the programs available, but it's also fostering that culture of communication.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. That's excellent. Eric?
Sure, everybody. Let me got my information there. Thanks, Forrest. Hey, everyone. My name is Eric Lebrader. I'm with New York Group 1. I'm a career, consultant. I work in IT and management consulting. I've worked in some larger companies for my first 30 years, like Accenture and KPMG, but today I work at a much smaller boutique consultancy called Vistrata. We do a full suite of IT and advisory services, everything from cybersecurity, risk management, data analytics, systems integration, you name it. As far as obviously having worked for so long in consulting, I've got a lot of client experience as well. But I'd say that in addition to what a lot of organizations provide, which are some of these, mental wellness programs through various companies. As it turns out, Michael, you mentioned Insperity. Insperity happens to be Vestrada's provider for HR services, including those benefits. So thank you for that. But beyond that, I think, what we try and do day to day with our clients and with our team is just promote work-life balance to the extent that we can, and that can take a lot of forms. Certainly does mean open communication and reaching out and connecting with people, especially now that we're working more remotely, so that we have less evident ways of being in touch. So we try to create them. We do, monthly happy hours and get-togethers in our local offices to bring as many people together as possible. We try to respect, people's times. Not scheduling meetings before 9 or after 4:30 or 5. Being a little bit looser on Fridays. Friday seems to be not an official day off, but things tend to get quieter, so people maximize, especially in the summer. So it's that kind of mindset and culture that I've seen, work, and that we do currently at Vestrada. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, Eric, thanks. That's good. Yeah, let's all take Friday off. I think that's a great idea. Except for
Especially
my
in the summer.
employees.
Especially in the
They
summer.
My people have to work Friday and Saturday, but everybody else can take off. No, just kidding. Michael McQueenie, how did I say that right?
Yeah, Mulqueenie. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so nice to meet you all. I'm Mike Mulqueenie. I'm with Johnson and Dugan. We're employee benefits consultants, advisors in the San Francisco Bay Area. Interestingly enough, this topic kind of caught my eye because back in 2020, 2021, when the pandemic hit, at that point, when we were all working remotely, and being the father of an autistic kid at home who got to get homeschooled while I was trying to work, having a mother who was in her 80s and having failing health and having to support her with her issues, on top of the own stresses I have with being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2020. It really brought up an opportunity where I built a panel and led a presentation for SHRM for a large annual meeting they hold in San Francisco that was titled Breaking Point, the building a culture of support, psychological safety, and burnout mitigation. And I had the opportunity to learn and realize through my own experience that mental health was really a different thing to different people depending what you had going on in your home. And this was all kind of brought to the surface when we had to work remotely, deal with our kids at home, being schooled at home, dealing with the IT issues that they had, and then our own personal issues in life, that showed up. So I was able to pull together a panel, and we built a presentation. The panel was comprised of a workforce health consultant from Kaiser Permanente, a strategic relationship VP of strategic development for Lyra Health, which is a mental health company, a virtual mental health company, as well as Lynn Perkins, the CEO of Urban Sitter, which supports families with daycare and solutions for that, as well as actually a fourth one, the VP of operations for a company called Caraloop, which focuses on supporting senior issues. So, what identified with regards to all this is, I think a lot of these things have been brought up by the other benefits consultants and our friends from Insperity and the HR consultants, is there's a lot of silos of help that people need. And what we've seen in our benefits practice, we typically support companies with 50 to 500 employees as our kind of target swing zone with most of our clients. We've been around for 40 years and have been, really supporting companies in this area. But the mental health discussion really came to light because people were burning out. And so, identifying that your managers in companies are the first line of defense. So helping employers support and empower their managers to be accessible and to be able to identify issues within their employees, the people that report to them, and give them a safe place to kind of come and be open and look for the support. And when you
Thanks, Michael.
see an area of support, we were, identifying, okay, well, where can we best support them? Do they need help with senior care? Do they need help with, having a child that is on the autism spectrum or with a disability, and there's different pressures and things that come with supporting that. Also, at the time when you also are responsible for, your job and you're working from home, so this is now we've gotten back to work, but these issues have all kind of floated to the surface. We've identified the resources for our employer clients of where we can get them help, and have empowered and actually beefed up a lot of the support that we are providing them through EAPs, mental health support within the plan and things like that. So this is a topic that I've been living for the last 4 years, and we're making a lot of moves there. So yeah.
That's good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Aaron, did you have another comment before we go through?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, just really quickly, I think I touched base mainly on just wellness, different wellness things that you can implement. But I wanted to touch base really quickly on EAP for the other benefits brokers and the Insperity person as well. After COVID, I've never seen more requests for EAP, employee assistance programs. And essentially, I wanted to just ask you guys, or, just really quickly ask you, Michael, which carriers that you are preferring you're writing the EAP with, or are you just bundling it through the ancillary carriers, and how that's been?
Really, you know what? It's all of the above. So our approach as a broker is to find the right solution for that client for what their needs are. So typically your ancillary, as you know, your ancillary carriers that are offering LTD and life and, bundling those packages do have an EAP component there that a lot of people don't even know it's there. So one thing is looking at the communication and how we're putting together, making sure employees know what they have as a resource to them. We then will often wrap around another standalone EAP carrier with deeper benefits, more visits, things like that as well. It can be, there's Magellan, there is, there's a lot of EAP carriers out there, and we've got business with pretty much all of the top ones. And a lot of it depends on kind of the consultant that's working on that account and kind of how they drive it, So I'm on the business development side for our firm, so I'm no longer client facing. As of about 5-6 years ago, I turned over my book of business, and I'm doing just pretty much my role is 100% in interacting with CFOs and HR leaders through SHRM and other organizations that gather them together and try to be a thought leader and bring presentations and panels and things to their meetings to bring value to what they do. And out of that, I'm able to then attract people that want to talk to us for some help with their benefits. So, there's not,
Awesome,
our
Michael.
view with all of these things is there's not one solution, there's many solutions. We just got to find the right fit for that particular situation.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
One comment with the EAP plans, whether they're through ancillary, some of the medical providers offer them as well. Or even standalone EAPs, there's usually a limited number of visits for those face-to-face meetings and that. So with that limitation there, what do they do after that? So that's why this telemedicine program that we offer is unlimited.
We're hearing an echo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's-
Okay. Well, so that's why we offer the telemedicine with unlimited health benefits.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Christina.
Hi, everybody. I'm with Better Fit Managed Services. I'm a vertical of Aaron's. We offer full service accounting services, HR and legal underneath my umbrella. And I think and I do apologize, I am working from home today. So if you hear background noise, the kids are out for summer. So bear with me. But like I mentioned, we try to give we try to understand our employees from a holistic standpoint on how we can offer them the best of both worlds, you know, helping them excel in their career, but also maintaining good mental health practices for their family and also on their career front. For my clients, we do run into a lot of like executives that are burning out, and we try to bring in our partner like Erin May to help find insurance support for those executives and their employee staff. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Thank you. Ben Sanders, welcome.
Thanks, Forrest. So Ben Sanders, I run Singleton Group, which is a recruiting firm focused on software engineering and data roles within the tech space. I would like to think that that our clients are hiring better people, and that's helping their stress level. But also, what I've seen some of the best engineering teams that I'm engaged with doing is taking advantage of return to office policies to intentionally like encourage connection among their teams. So one of them that comes to mind, I was sitting down with this manager last week, and he was talking to me about a group of people on his team that are now playing Magic, the Gathering, every day at lunch. And he was really pumped about it because he's like, all right, these people are obviously talking to each other. I'm going to make sure that they have space to do this, and that this will help their productivity and their conversations and their creativity as they actually get to know each other better. And this is a company that they started a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday return to office policy like 6 months ago or so, and are now really enforcing it. So I think the approach to not just being there, but actually getting people to engage with each other seems to be going well. I've made 2 placements on that team, and both of those people love it and love those, like, these little things that the company is pushing them to do.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't take a lot, just a little. That's awesome, Ben. And I don't know, every time I go to hire, yeah, I feel like I increase my stress. I just hired 2 new people in the last few weeks, and it's driving me nuts. So you obviously have a better plan. It's like awesome. Lawrence Stern, I know you came in a little bit late, so the question is that we're going, if you could just introduce yourself briefly, and then the question is, what are you and your clients doing about supporting mental well-being and preventing employee burnout? And you're welcome to, once you speak, is to add your contact info in the chat so everybody knows how to find you.
Sure.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
I do apologize. I was in trial all morning and just got out of trial just a little before noon, made it back to my office. I'm an attorney. We do primarily workers' compensation and employment discrimination on the applicant side. Primarily, we represent police, fire, first responders. That's about 80%. Then we represent a good number of physicians, dentists, and other professionals. That's probably another 10%. And then ironically, we have about 10% of drivers for various services. We represent them. In terms of, we've been working remote at home since COVID, and we've still do work. A number of people work remote at home. We rotate, but we do like people coming to the office. There are a lot of issues that get many people don't think about remote home work, and that includes injuries at home that will be covered by workers' compensation, and also other benefits that may and need to be applied when you work at home. We do try to give our own employees as much time off as they need. We encourage people, if they want to get outside help, we will refer them for both psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers. I think that's a pretty broad about me and what we do.
In post-COVID, a increase in worker comp claims because
Oh,
of
absolutely.
anxiety and depression
One
and
thing that people don't
mental
realize
health?
is that when you work from home, that's an employee's business. And you may be responsible for things like automobile accidents that occur or coverage under your workers' comp policy. They'll all cover it, but the claims, what happens when they slip and fall at home? What happens if they're bringing papers between the office and home? What happens if they get COVID from someone else, a child, but they brought it to the workplace and it's covered? There are a lot of things that are coming up right now in the employment field that the insurance carriers haven't thought a lot about over a period of time, but now are beginning to think about what to do and how to cover them. And we do see a lot of these kinds of claims, or we're seeing them increase specifically of people who have what I'm going to call at-home injuries or injuries, quote, on the job, though primarily prior to working at home or working remotely, they would not necessarily have been accepted as industrial injuries.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Lawrence. Appreciate it. Alberto, B2B CFO. Somebody mentioned CFO earlier. We have two people here in the business, so. Welcome.
Hi, I'm in the B2B CFO, and we're strategic business advisors. And we help clients concentrate on things that they should be concentrating on. I spent so many years as a CFO for large automotive groups. And so I started doing this on my own. And it's amazing how a lot of business owners are so caught up in their day to day that they don't even know where their cash is or what they need to do with their bank loans or anything like that. So that's what we do. Just recently, I've been doing a lot of interviews for a couple of specific clients for part-time college students and for regular office assistants. And there's really no particular benefits that these people want other than being very flexible with accommodating people with their hours. However, they do want the employees to come to work. And it's a little bit different here in Florida. But they are very, very flexible as far as, they can, if it requires or if they can accommodate, they can let the they were talking about letting the employee work at 3 or 4 hours from home. But other than that, they pretty much want everybody to get back into work. I started interviewing a bunch of college students through Handshake, and it's amazing. Some great kids that are coming out of college that are willing to work for, they're accounting majors and going to take their CPA exam, and they're just looking for a job. They just want to, 19, 20, 21, 22 hour per hour job that, yeah, so it's a little different.
Yeah, thanks, Alberto. And I know the imbalance of working at home or working remote is certainly a challenge to the mental health of our employees and quite frankly the productivity of them. But we are hearing that a lot more, Alberto, that people are starting to demand that they come back into the office. I can tell you all of our New York groups that we were just with recently, most of those folks are back in the office, normal day. So it's starting to happen. Michael Schlager, I think, let's see if we got you from the echoes.
Hi, hopefully it's not echoing over there.
Perfect.
My name is Michael Schlager. I own the Hiring Solutions Group. We're executive recruiters here. We focus on Northern New Jersey as a demographic, and we really go wide from there. We have about 1,300 partners in our network. It's worked out quite well for a number of years. I'm getting a lot of different feedback. I took some notes on this to respond to you regarding work-life balance and flexible work hours. We just placed somebody, and she's the first person in. She's just been there for about a month and a half. She's been given the keys to the place. She sort of sets up the customer service thing, everything for customer service first thing. So here's a company that really wasn't attending to the phones in the way that they really should have been, and she's really transformed that. And they feel like she basically walks on water. As far as the remote work going on, that stuff is really not happening so much. However, companies are being more receptive to it than they were before, I'm going to say 2020, in the sense that they know that it's necessary for some people at different times. I think there's more benefit plans for a few people to be more flexible when there's a partner that's, having a baby or whatever. There's a lot more maternity stuff going on that's, I think, very healthy. As far as regarding open communication, asking people to really, promoting that autonomy, I think that's really like a very interesting thing. It's like management isn't as good as it used to be. So I think they want people to make decisions and rise to the occasion. So because there's not a lot of people that manage as well. So in the smaller privately held companies, that's what I'm seeing. But they want to recognize people earlier, sort of like the Costco method of hiring and development versus the Staples. Staples tries to hire people that are younger and promote them quickly, but you can only get so high. You're not going to make more than 45,000 there, but you're going to be thrilled because you're 28 years old, make 45,000. You started at 30 a year and a half ago. But all the major decisions are made in the main office, so they have a centralized process for that. Whereas Costco will pay people more money, and there's more things that are done right on the spot. And it's just like a whole different dynamic that happens as a result of these things. So I have a wide range of companies that are doing that. I have younger people being promoted in places where I really don't think that they should be promoted, in the sense that they might be really good at one aspect of the job, but people aren't doing enough assessments to really find out how well they're rounded about their job. And I think that really hurts a lot. We provide assessments for our clients before they hire anybody. And we might do that for the top 3 or 5 people that they're considering. We also give ongoing training and development that we offer for any of the people that we place. So whether it's an AI course or it's some other type of development that they need, we'll do that. If the company doesn't offer it, we offer this, $10 discount dental plan that we've offered to a few companies for a few clients. I think that's really a wonderful way to help people balance some things out, sometimes in between. We have for one client, we just recently, the guy did a lot of construction in his house, and things went into his credit cards and kind of high interest. So we got the owner to offer him a $5,000 no interest loan, which is going to be coming, after he's there for 3 months. He's going to offer it to him, and he put that in writing for him, and he's thrilled. He's like, that made a difference for him taking the job with them. I mean, that was just like, I created it, and it was really kind of cool. And it's about listening to people and really trying to figure out exactly what they need to do to sort of really attune yourself that much better to it. I helped some employees. I went ahead and I bought a car for one employee. I made it a company car for a while. And then at the point when she left, I let him buy it from me for like, a few bucks. And, that worked out really well for everybody. And, just trying to figure out what things can really matter for an individual and super tuning yourself, I think is making a big difference, both for my own company and for companies that we work with. As far as monitoring workloads and scheduling, I'm always checking to see what's going on. I usually, get a at least a half a mile in every day, walking back and forth to see what people are doing, how they're doing it,
Nice.
and checking different people for projects and stuff like that that are working remotely, say.
Well,
And as
thanks,
far
Michael.
as,
Appreciate it.
sorry, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
It almost covers everything, so
Hey, it's good stuff. I love it. I love it. I
yeah,
I think this is a tough job, trying to, because we want to make sure dialogue is flowing, and we like the information to go. Although sometimes we have to let other people go. So I'm not just saying that for you, Michael. It's just, in general, that's the tough part of this, moderation thing.
sure.
But, I love what you're talking about. I think that a lot of people are not in the right seat in their companies.
Yeah.
And we talk about mental health. You're trying to do a job you're not very good at, and everybody knows you're not very good at it, then that's failure on everybody's part. So I appreciate your assessment comment. We have one more person to comment on this, I think. Charles Smith, are you around? I know you're not on camera, but Charlie?
Hey, Charles Smith, how are you?
There you go,
Can you hear me?
Charles. Yeah, quick introduction, and then yeah, we can hear you.
Great. Sorry about that. I'm on the road, so we're going to do it with
No problem.
the press photo. Yeah, my name's Charles Smith. I'm LA based. I run a small consulting firm called Morgan Scott Group. We do boutique HR consulting. I'm primarily focused on interim and fractional gigs right now, although we do some project work from time to time. I'll answer your question in a little different way from a consultant to client basis and other companies where I've worked. In terms of well-being, I've never seen a CFO open the purse strings and say "go nuts." So I think your mileage is really going to vary from company to company. At one organization, we were 85% female, ages 18 to 29. We made babies and cancer at that organization. So what we did is really focused on maternity care and paid parental leave, things like that. And my personal opinion is that the gift with purchase you get with your disability program for an EAP is completely anemic, and it's a waste of time. So you really need to figure out where you're going to bolster your program and where it's most needed. So at this organization, we put in a program about maternity, and it was really concierge level service. Another organization I've worked with had substance abuse issues and addiction issues. So concierge level, a really high end program that walks people through the rehab, the recovery afterwards, and so on and so forth. Because I think the traditional model of, hey, go to rehab for 30 days and you're magically cured doesn't generally work. So, putting in the guardrails and the infrastructure so that person can be successful transitioning back into their job. I think, we all saw this coming out of COVID, a lot of mental health distress. So what I always try to advise my clients to build in, right now, my fractionals are all on PEOs, and it is what it is. That's a different discussion for a different day. But really try to figure out, especially if you're self-insured, you can get really creative with benefits and try to build in some sort of cash reimbursement for visiting a mental health practitioner. These guys operate on an all cash basis. Many times they don't accept insurance. And so you have to figure out a way to incorporate that into your program, whether it's through FSA contributions and things like that. And I think then on the other side, the non-benefit side, it goes back to your HR. And my one thing I'm going to do before I die is revolutionize the one-to-one touch base with the supervisors. Supervisors don't give enough feedback. They don't give it frequently enough, and they're afraid of difficult conversations. So how do we really revolutionize this and make it a worthwhile, productive conversation for everybody? And that I could do, an hour-long chat on. So, but I think really bringing that up, people quit their managers 9 times out of 10. I think money's probably the other, 1% out there. And so I think if you really have that supervisory bonding and the manager really giving good feedback that is practical and usable and so on and so forth, I think everyone benefits. So there you go. That's my short version.
Great. Yeah, great point. One that had not been made. Awesome. All right, well, good stuff there. So we're going to go on to the second. This is probably a little bit of an easier one. We've got about 15 minutes before we give the reins over to Warren here to talk about exit planning, staff exit planning, which is going to be a lot of fun. So the next question is, what are the positives and negatives of salary and bonus transparency? So I'm not going to call on everybody. I'll let whoever has relevant commentary on that share. But I can tell you why this came up is I also operate a CEO group, and one of the biggest things that destroyed a company of one of our members is there was a salesperson who the staff thought was making too much money. And the CEO had to make a decision. Does he announce what this person's really making, or does he keep it quiet? The group's comment was, you should be transparent, let everybody know. He chose not to be transparent. 6 months later, 2 or 3 of those main partner employees quit, turned around, hired lawyers, started coming after him, which caused an implosion with clients. And now his very successful business is on fumes in my eyes, because he wasn't open and honest with his employees as to what the compensation was and wasn't communicating in a correct way. I mean, if he went up there and said, yes, Mike Jones makes $10,000, $20,000 more, but here's the reasons why, then maybe he would have not caused that disgruntled employee situation that came up. So with that, I'll pose the question. So Aaron, you want to get started here? So negatives and positives on salary and bonus transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to start it by saying every company is going to be a little bit different. It really depends on organizational culture and industry norms. Whether or not your competitors are also being transparent is going to be a leading driving force, because it's going to affect your recruitment and retention. If your industry competitors are being transparent about their salaries, then and you're not going to be able to attract top talent in your industry, because they're not going to perceive your organization with high morale and high trust. So at the end of the day, not all industries or all organizations need to be transparent. And in some cases, it does hurt you, creates conflict, competitive disadvantage, misinterpretation, just like what you're saying right there, Forrest. Most companies I see right now are not being transparent. But if you're in an industry where you're having trouble recruiting and retaining top talent, it's probably in your best interest to show your employees a lot of trust and increase morale by being transparent through your salaries. Another thing that I was looking into is fairness. It can ensure that your competitive decisions are fair, that are based on salary transparency, and that's basically majority of what I have to say. I know we only have 15 minutes, but I can also get into a little bit of how that can reduce, gender and racial pay gaps in general as well. But I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, maybe that's a topic for next month. That's always possible. All right, who else wants to comment on this? I keep looking at Ben here. Ben, what are your thoughts? I'm going to call you out here.
So most of my background is in sales environments and recruiting environments that are commission based. So I think the big takeaway from that for me is, if you're going to be transparent, you better be ready to discuss the why. Like, if a salesperson is making more than everybody else in the organization, there should be a good reason for it. Actually, a good salesperson probably should be making more than most, in my opinion. But not just the numbers is basically the snapshot. Don't just share the numbers, share the why. Like, why is somebody making X? You have to be either fully transparent or not transparent at all. Like, the in between is, I think, where people get in the most trouble.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. Who else has a thought on transparency?
I would just add that the communication of the why has been brought up now twice, and that's huge. The larger the organization you are, even if you're not transparent, it doesn't mean you're not. I mean, you know, people talk and people are going to find out. And if you're trying to keep a lid on things, then you know, the larger you are, the chances are pretty high that it's going to be released out there one way or another, what people make. You know, being in sales, I think most of us here at some level tied to kind of a sales aspect to our job, and the obvious thing here, which has been brought up twice, is the why, and people understanding that a salesperson that makes a lot of money is responsible for you getting the paycheck that you're getting as well. Without their sales, you're not going to have that paycheck. And or if they're not making the sales, they're not making that kind of money. So, you know, our compensation is driven on what we produce. And you almost, in a sense, a healthy organization has sales people that are making the majority of the money or the higher compensation levels in a company because they're responsible for that company being healthy. You know, they got good processes in place and good relationships, and they're leveraging those and keeping that sales volume and that funnel full, you know, to keep the revenue coming in. So I see a lot of this spoken about in HR, a lot of SHRM. I do a lot of SHRM meetings, organizational meetings. I go to several a month in different chapters and whatnot. And every fall, there's one up in the San Francisco Bay Area called BayRec. It's the Bay Area Human Resources Executive Council. And in the fall every year, they do a compensation survey presentation that's delivered by Michael Radford, who's now with Aon and does the Radford survey, the compensation survey, which probably a lot of you are familiar with or have heard of. That is the highest attended meeting BayRec holds annually. Every month they do a meeting, third Wednesday of the month. That meeting typically has double the participation of HR leaders. Typically, the people coming are chief people officers, VPs of HR, very high level folks, and they dive into this every year. And it's just pretty crazy how this topic is it's never going to necessarily be solved. You got to kind of stay current with what's being done and how things are being looked at. And you know, that Radford compensation survey is a real eye opener. They do it on a national basis, but I would recommend you take a look at it if it's something that you want to dive deeper.
Appreciate that. Awesome. Warren, go ahead.
Thanks, Forrest. I thought maybe Aaron was going to delve into this a little bit, but maybe not. But from a recruiting standpoint, a number of states, particularly New England and then out west, have passed laws that said that when you're recruiting, you have to disclose, you know, what the rate of pay is and the purpose is on a equity basis. A lot of it comes from lack of transparency and discrimination against women. So when I do any of my executive search activities, it's incumbent upon me and the client to make sure that there's full transparency on compensation, because they do not want to, number one, run afoul of the law, and number two, understand their need to be more transparent and compliant with workforce discrimination, not only based on sex, but different races and colors. So that to me is my take on it, other than the fact that it should be common sense. So that's the positive of it. The negative of the transparency is people just aren't, some higher level employees are not really comfortable having their pay disclosed. However, I think education and training and awareness of why it's necessary becomes important for the client.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Other thoughts?
Yeah, this is Charles. I can jump in real quick on that. I like what Warren had to say about the transparency, and I'll add to the transparency laws in the Northeast and out West. A lot of the younger generation will not apply to a job if they don't have a salary range posted on the job. So even if it's not required in your state, you might consider going there. The other side of the two-edged sword is you really better have your ducks in a row in terms of what you're paying people and have your compensation program nailed down. That's why there's such a turnout at that Bay Area comp event, is because there's a lot of moving parts to fixing a broken compensation program. And I highly recommend getting someone in your organization that is familiar with that. They can go through all the different ways that you need to do testing and so on to make sure that you are compliant, depending on the size of your organization, et cetera. But I agree, being transparent is 100% the way to go. It's a little painful and it may cost you some money to fix some grave errors, but I guarantee you they all talk. I've had people at the director level I know for a fact went out for drinks and all exchange of the salaries. I mean, I don't understand it, but it happens. I'm sure VP level does it too, and it just happens. So it's going to get out there whether you want it to or not. It's better to be playing offense than defense, my point of view.
Love that, Charles. Thanks. Well, this may be a bigger discussion. Maybe we pull this back in next month or the month after. We have time for one more comment. Anybody else want to chime in on this before we go to Warren?
I'll just add really quickly, Warren. I appreciate you expanding. I just kind of rushed through it to make sure everyone had time.
Nice. I don't have that ruler anymore, Aaron. I threw it away. You remember the one from school? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I still got those marks in my hands from you, bud.
you still have the marks, yeah. Awesome. All right. Michael,
I just have a small thing I could say. You know,
Yeah.
for the small privately held companies, it's extremely dangerous for them to go ahead and be open about it. I don't think most of them really know how to do it well. And these are usually companies under 100 people. And they've on the occasion when they've done it, I've just seen a lot of mess from it. People leaving companies, large amounts of people exiting, or having a long turnover rate that they want to try to stop, and ask me to help them with retention. So I don't see how well it works for that. You need a really great HR department for that.
Well, and a lot of companies that have 50 employees or 30 employees, they don't have HR departments. So now you've got, you know, the financial person going and talking to people, or the CEO themselves. And that's usually not done in the same tact as a professional HR person like you guys. So yeah, that does breed a lot of problems. Well, great, all good discussion. Warren, I'm gonna hand this over to you, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. Go for it.
All right, Forrest, thank you. And thanks for the discussion up to this point. It's been fairly exciting. And sometimes people don't think that employers need us, but I think they do. I previously mentioned what I did, and the topic that we set up this afternoon was staffing and exit planning. So I'm going to start with exit planning for baby boomers. There may be a few on the call. I'm just looking at the gray hairs, a lack of gray hairs for those that are remaining. And it leads into exit planning in the whole staffing process. So a little bit of facts that we probably are somewhat aware of. All the statistics continue to discuss baby boomer ownership. And 8 million baby boomers still own their businesses. And the question always comes up for me, what happens when they retire? So just a little bit of research from Forbes magazine as of the latter half of last year, 2023, estimated that 10,000 baby boomers were retiring every day, with 4 million boomers retiring every year. So another fact by Forbes, only 10% of business owners have an exit strategy. No surprise there based on my activities. And Forbes likewise noted that millennials aren't interested, for the most part, in inheriting a business if they're working in the business, especially if the business is less than exciting. I don't define what less than exciting is, but if you know any millennials, like I've got 2 of them, they have various definitions of what less than exciting is. My son said, "Dad, your business is not very exciting." And I said, "Thank you for the compliment." But even if the business is profitable, like a plumbing company, there's less than exciting. It may make a lot of money, but they don't necessarily, as millennials, have a motivation in buying a business or running a business or taking over a business to have a profitable business. It's got to be very interesting to them. So there's opportunities for those who don't mind or even more want what Forbes calls the unsexy but thriving business. Cases in point in my neck of the woods out on Cape Cod, southeastern Mass, there's an increasing number of HVAC businesses that are being aggregated by PE firms. At first, 2 years ago, it was for the purpose of the client list to take those HVAC, yeah, I can say it, but I can't think it, HVAC companies and aggregate their client list to have a wider service area. In the past year, however, that aggregation is being driven by the PE companies buying up these HVAC firms for the purpose of acquiring their employees to do the work because there's a labor shortage. So depending on how those aggregations happen, it's an unsexy, but it's a thriving business. That's where a lot of the aggregation is occurring. Recent surveys by Biz Buy Sell found 66% of business brokers think an increasing number of buyers are going to enter the market this year, and 75% expect more owners to sell their businesses this year than last year. So when I look at staffing and exit planning for us, I look at the options for those boomers to exit. Boomers as well as the Gen Xers. So certainly they can sell to a competitor, they can sell to a PE firm. Increasingly here where I live on the Cape, business owners are closing their doors. They don't want to do either one. Or they can develop a plan to transition and hire a CEO. And that's where the exit planning and the staffing intersect. So why I work on executive search is when I bought my company back only 15 years ago, it was a temp agency, primarily worked on Cape Cod. And when the recession hit, it was a very interesting transition for the company. We had roughly billing out 8,000 hours a week, and the following week, paying out 8,000 hours. Recession hit, that dropped down to probably 100 hours a week because, one, the business owners didn't need or couldn't afford temps, and the temps wanted full-time jobs. So that whole network on the Cape, the temp agencies disappeared and allowed us here to do executive search, which is what I love to do. During this whole time, I've worked as an executive coach and consultant, and I've had a 20-plus year managing companies. So as I mentioned at the outset, I understand how to hire people for the best fit. I work on workforce alignment and engagement in any search engagement I take. And I have a very firm understanding from my experience on how to manage and motivate employees. So when I'm doing an executive search with the business owner, I'm trying to understand the culture and the communication processes within those companies, whether it's on-site or in a hybrid or fully remote, because that always tends to say how successful, number one, is that executive going to be in working with the business owner when the business owner has developed their growth strategy and has been basically talking about what they want for the exit plan. So as part of our services here, it's not only just exit planning and transition planning, it's a combination of executive coaching to the owners and the senior staff, because they don't necessarily think about what they're going to do when they leave their business or how the business is going to grow. So helping those owners to replace themselves by hiring executives in their business becomes a key strategy for me and for them. depending on the size of the businesses that you've been working with, I find that businesses under 100 employees, by and large, do not have business plans, don't want to talk about developing a business plan. It scares them, but yet it's something that can drive their business to growth. So I like to say that I help business owners move from the driver's seat to riding shotgun as they implement their exit strategy over a 3 to 5 year period. And then with that growth strategy, exit strategy, make sure that it's implemented before their transition. So when I'm hiring CEOs and other executives for them, it's with the intent of getting that executive to implement the growth strategy and hit the KPIs that the owners want. So that's how the two intersect. Now, personal story, the name of the company is the Executive Suite. I live in La La Land on Cape Cod. It's not Southern California, it's Cape Cod. It's another tourist destination. In every new year, January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I get calls on the phone from former owners or retired executives who bought a retirement home on Cape Cod. And they're bored stiff. And they're calling me to say, Warren, I need a job. What do you got for me? And they're usually anywhere from 65 to 70 years old. And none of them have done a personal transition plan or discussion. I had talked to a client yesterday, perfect example. He's getting offers for somebody to buy his business. So he's 59 years old. And I said, Bob, what do you plan to do once you sell your business? And he said, well, I can tell you what I'm not going to do. And Christina, don't take offense. He said, I'm not going to have my wife tell me what I'm going to do every single hour of the day. And I said, I understand that, but what are you planning to do? And he goes, that question may cause me to not sell my business. So, one of the things I find, the key thing I find in every exit planning discussion, transition discussion, is business owners are focused on selling the business, that business transition piece. They do not think about their personal transition. And unless and until they do, they're going to be making some errors in that business transition discussion. So I've always made business transition part of the executive search strategy because I want the company and the owner to win. That's my focus and that's my discussion, and I'll leave it there for us for questions.
Yeah, for questions.
And hopefully I didn't put people to sleep.
I'm still awake.
I'd love to jump in. You said a lot there, Warren. Real tremendous research and details in that. I personally experienced exactly what you're talking about as far as the PE firms. They're buying up Jersey. They're buying up plumbers. They're trying to find people because they can't grow the firms because they find the talent. So I happened to find this out because a client I was recruiting a plumber for, he told me about this guy. They called him to buy the firm, and he'd like to shape it up like that. And I ended up calling up the company. Yeah, I got the information from him, and I called them up, and they said, "Well, we've called over a dozen executive recruiters, and none of them do plumbing situations." I said, "That's the word executive." They specialize in executives. They're not specializing in plumbers per se. I do recruiting on many different levels. I've done this times. They never heard of anybody doing it, so they made a whole business plan around the idea that all these famous recruiters couldn't find it for me, so therefore we have to go buy the companies. They had this big plan. So the guy I spoke to wouldn't let me speak to his boss for at least 3 months because he would have looked like a fool because he put together this plan that he was the one who said it, that, it's impossible. You can't hire these guys. None of these recruiters said it. And they list Robert Half and all the other big recruiters and said that, we don't do it. So it is hard to do. I mean, I actually had a guy going out to parking lots and finding people in trucks and doing it in the wintertime, in the freezing cold, going in and bumping into people in trucks and finding out their names and getting information from them. And that's how he chose to do it.
That's
It wasn't
one successful way to do it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, these guys aren't on LinkedIn, you know, maybe you can find them through Facebook.
Yeah.
But like, it is very hard search to do. You can go to a local bodega maybe and bump into them, find them when they're picking up supplies or something like that, or when they're going for lunch. But I mean, it is a big hardship. And I like what you did because psychologically, you know, you talk about a guy who's in a business for, you know, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, they don't know how to deal with transition because they never had transition. It's their own life. You know, everybody in the whole company sometimes for these small privately held companies is experiencing whatever they want to do that day, whatever the craziness is of their moment, however their head spins, they deal with it. And they do wake up at the last minute and cancel the whole deal because they're waking up to exactly the point that you said. And I think when you're saying it early on, you're sometimes getting them wiser to what they need to do earlier on, because otherwise you probably learned at some point that could kill a deal, right?
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yep.
There's a guy, Richard Parker, who happens to have helped people sell like 600-700 businesses. He's phenomenal. He sold all the rights to his material to Donald Trump for his Trump University at one point for an undisclosed amount of money. And then he couldn't do it for a while because that's part of Trump's contract. And then he went back into it, and now he's like all over the internet with the stuff doing it. And he's phenomenal at getting people to understand how to shape these situations. But it takes a tremendous amount to deal with that. And I, you know, being involved mostly small privately held companies, my biggest dream is to go ahead and get some ownership in some of these companies. And my coaches have told me that, you know, work with them for 6 months and then decide if you really want to have ownership in them. And after like 30, my coaches said that to me, I think I maybe there was 2 I was interested in, you know, after a few months, and I lost interest in them a little bit later because the way they'll do things doesn't really work. And I placed a marketing guy at one firm, and that was several other firms that were doing just like that. And he was willing, he had a limited job. He was willing to moonlight and help these other firms for it. His owner had no problem with it. I even cleared it with his owner because these smaller firms have no way to bloom and to blossom because they can't afford to get a guy that's making $160,000 a year that's an expert in this. And he had the whole structure. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to take up too much time for us.
Other questions for Warren?
Part of my feedback, Forrest, is that with the benefit folks on the call, and then really anybody who's providing consulting and coaching services, is we are all, in many respects, behavioralists to understand the what and the who and the why of our clients so that we can provide them our best advice and our best recommendations, whether it's a search process, whether it's succession, transition, exit planning, understanding what types of benefits we need to provide to our clients and the options to them. It requires us to get a little bit better understanding of the culture of the company, the orientation and psychology of ownership or whomever we're interacting with in order to get the solution that we're recommending for them correct. And it's I think several of the benefits folks said earlier, every single client has a different solution based on who it is, where they are, the size of their workforce, and the services or products that they're delivering. And that's the fun part of being in this whole venue of employers, working with them and understanding that challenge and just enjoying it.
Yeah, great. Aaron, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a comment, and thank you again, Warren, for sharing all that. I appreciate it. Back to the first kind of roundtable discussion on the mental health wellness in defeating burnout. Another thing I just remembered, a couple of my clients asked for it and implemented were actually gym memberships for their employees. Corporate offered free gym memberships, and they've seen some great some great feedback from their employees. I remember just last year we switched to Carrier and we stopped doing the gym memberships, and a lot of the employees, once they completed their feedback survey, they wanted to get that back in to the program. So for all the benefits broker and people that are consulting in terms of building benefits packages to help mental wellness and defeat burnout, another thing to look into would be those corporate gym memberships, because they're like really inexpensive, less expensive than like a Microsoft business account per employee per year. And it really is something helpful that I know personally that I get a lot out of the gym, just helping with mental wellness. So I just wanted to add that really quickly since I remembered.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
Good point.
Uh,
You know, Forrest, if I can,
yeah,
to follow up on Aaron's comment, when I was the executive of a fairly large company, I was noticed my HR director brought in the fact that we were experiencing we were self-insured on workers' compensation, and we were experiencing an increase in claims, compensation claims. So we began to look at the types of claims, you know, the injuries, it was back, it was leg, it was arm. So we started to talk to the different labor groups in the company, and would they benefit for their members and for fellow employees with gym memberships, and paid for by the company. And they looked at us and they said, you know, what are you guys drinking? And I said, the amount of money we pay for the workers' comp claims and the hospital visits is huge compared to, you know, a group membership at a health club or yoga or fitness, whatever it is. So we surveyed their members, and they came up with a package of programs at different health clubs that reflected what the employees wanted. And to this day, it's still being used. And the workers' comp claims and payments out for the hospitals, et cetera, just declined. But what was funny about it still to this day is, you know, one of the guys at the union had said, you know, Warren, what are you smoking? And I said, nothing. It's just, it's common sense. And sometimes employers just don't use common sense in respecting their employees.
mm-hmm. Amazing. We've pretty much come up to almost to the top of the half hour. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is again a very beginning of this group. It is going to continue to grow. If you are interested, we'll reach out to you if you're interested in adding this to your membership or joining this group. If you're not a current Highrise member, we will, once we stabilize the group, we will be asking the group for input on discussions. Those of you who know me, I'm always open to trying to make things better. So if you see something today you think we could do differently, always open to that. We want this to be a place where you guys can come, discuss things like we did today, learn something, and walk away and implement it with a client, a friend, or potentially even in your own lives. So, and with that, I'm going to go to the gym, Warren, in a half hour, just because you guys said it. I'm going to go right downstairs and do it. But once again, I want to thank everybody for being here, and really appreciate you guys being on this call today.